Welcome, listeners. I'm so excited to talk with Anthony Salcito today. He's the general manager of enterprise at Coursera, a role he assumed in late last year. He leads Coursera's enterprise business, partnering with companies, campuses, and governments worldwide to equip employees, students, and citizens with job relevant skills. Previously, he was the chief institution business officer at Nerdy and spent over 2 decades at Microsoft as VP of worldwide education. So he's launched initiatives like Live at EDU, Partners in Learning, Microsoft Innovative Educator, and he served on multiple education focused boards and currently co chairs the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks to be, Julie. It's good to see you. I'm excited about our conversation, and certainly always happy to talk about the impact on skills in the workforce.
Yeah, yeah. And so you all have at Coursera some really intriguing new data about the most highly sought after skills in the workplace. And so before we dig into like all the juicy uh, tidbits that you found and strategies, I'd love to just start with like, what is Coursera? Like, what is your role? Like, what kind of research do y'all do? I'd love to just know some more context there.
Yeah, so the report that you're referring to is our job skills report, which we release annually, which draws on data from about 6 million enterprise learners across 7,000 institutions worldwide. And it provides a North Star of some of the broader trends that we're seeing based on enrollments on skills that are most in demand. Obviously, at Coursera, our mission is to help the world learn and prepare for a changing workplace. And that's certainly something that the job skills report gives real good indication of some of the macro trends that we're seeing at Coursera.
Yeah, yeah. And so of those macro trends, I think everyone's always thinking like, okay, what are the skills we need to be looking for? Like
Sure.
where are the gaps? Like where do I need to be hiring? Like all these questions that folks are thinking about with talent right now. Um, from your vantage point with the latest research and the work that Coursera does, like where is the mindset around skills? Like what seem to be the ones that are really being prioritized right now?
Yeah, I think first off, it's clear that the demand for Gen AI skilling is on the rise, which is a good thing. I think many organizations, many enterprise leaders embraced AI and try to be an AI first business, industry, university, or campus, etc. And one of the things that we certainly recognize is that skills is as, if not more important than the technology as it relates to utilizing and taking value out of these tools. And so now there's a real demand for Gen AI skilling, not just fundamentals, but deeper skilling across Gen AI. We're seeing a 234% year over year rise with regards to enrollments on Gen AI. A Gen AI enrollment happens 15 times every single minute on the Coursera platform. So huge demand there. But one of the good things to see is certainly with that rise in tech skilling on AI, we're seeing corresponding growth with regards to human skills. Things like leadership, critical thinking is perhaps one of the largest growing skills on our platform, which shows that we need obviously to take advantage of these tools, but how we use them, how we put our human agency to the task is absolutely important as well. And certainly that's a good balance that we're seeing on the job skills report.
Yeah, yeah. It's a hunch I have had since all this AI hype has surfaced in the last few years, Anthony. Everyone went all in. I'm like, I need to hire people with all this AI experience, which you and I know, like there's like large language models have been around for a long time. So you do have
Yes,
large
yes, yes.
LLM knowledge, but like Gen AI is a very new thing. Not a lot of people have any like more experience than how long it's been around for. So I am pleasantly surprised to see that critical thinking skills are important. That is a hypothesis I had as everyone went one zigs, the zag is human skills. Like what is it that AI is not so good at? And critically thinking is one of the gaps I have certainly noticed in my use with AI. It's like you're just kind of repeating something out of context. It sounds robotic. It doesn't sound like there's a lot of intuition or lived experience, which a robot can't
Sure, sure.
have, at least not right now. So I'm curious as people kind of zig to the zag, if you will, to critical thinking, like what does that skill set look like? Like what are people wanting to learn more about? Like what are people desiring? What does that look like?
So it's obviously it's role specific to the kind of organization that folks are looking at. But obviously we see huge demand for AI fundamentals that you could expect across all levels in an organization from CEOs across. But what we're starting to see is a deepening of things like agentic workflow,
Mm,
becoming better at prompt engineering, understanding how to use visualization and natural language as part of these tool sets. Coding and understanding data science. These are all complementary skills that are part of this Gen AI trend, which shows you.
mhm,
So we're getting to the double click that was from just consuming Gen AI as a user to really using Gen AI as a tool to solve problems and organizational change, which is the real harder shift. And frankly, this is something that I've seen throughout my career. When any sort of large technology paradigm comes in, there's a classic excitement and hype of the capabilities. There's a fear of displacement and disruption. Then there's a sort of a normalcy and complacency with regards to light automation. Then there's a pushback on ROI and business impact. Hey, this has not delivered the results it happens. And then there's a fundamental realization that the real value of these technologies comes from a much deeper ingrained transformation of how do we take advantage of these tools to align to our business mission, our, our core IP and our product, et cetera, and start to transform with these new tool sets. That requires skills. And what we see is a tremendous demand from employers on acquiring talent as well as building talent that have verified skills on using tools like AI with more agency and, as you mentioned, more humanity to make the right kind of
mhm.
decisions and use of these tools.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's especially like the prompt engineering. I know here at Indiana University where I teach, we have a really good Gen AI course that I took, and there was a specific module, or maybe more than one module, on prompt engineering. And I learned so much about how
Yeah,
to really get robust results from these AI, the generative AI tools, because it's one thing to just say, hey, write a summary of this article. Like that's pretty basic, but you
sure.
can get very granular and specific with your instructions, much like you said with like computer coding. Like if you're really good at writing code that really gets to the heart of what you're looking for, you get much better, clearer results. And then, Anthony, it's the question of what do I do with these results? Like you said, it's the human element, the critical thinking component to it that I think is fascinating because people are using, Gen AI from everything to how to write an email or how to deal with a
Sure, sure.
conflict or even for therapy, which is kind of wild for me. Um, how do you layer in the human component? So again, to kind of double click on the critical thinking skills, like what is it that we need humans to critically think about right now? Like I think I understand what that looks like, but I get puzzled faces like from my students of like, how do I demonstrate critical thinking skills? It's like, what
Yeah,
does
well,
Coursera's take
first
on that?
off, one of the things that you highlighted is that remember a lot of the things that folks need to be critically thinking about is to determine what is AI and what is not AI. So
Right.
discerning reality from what is created by Gen AI is certainly a core talent. We were saying this a few years ago with fake news becoming more and more popular. How do I discern the truth? That's a fundamental skill that humans need. But in a business context, what's happening now with tools like Gen AI, but also better data models that are happening through cloud and advanced connectivity across data streams inside organizations, as well as end user tools, there are more visualizations and data that is coming at every level of an organization than ever before. That requires really a human to understand where the priorities are, how to use this data more thoughtfully, to apply it to business change, decisions that need to be made with regards to people, investments, product design, et cetera. That's really where that human is super critical, and that's why that skill is so needed because we're getting better tools, better visualization, better insight of what's happening across the organization, but you need that human level to not only to make decisions, but also to think differently about what's valuable in an organization and bring things like organizational culture. leadership to motivate employees to think differently and build more agency and autonomy. As you mentioned in my bio, I spent a lot of time working with students on entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial skills. And entrepreneurship, I think, is one of the most important skills in this new Gen AI world because not only if you're starting a business as an entrepreneur, which you have increased capacity of tool sets to think bigger and to be more global out of the gate, you want an entrepreneurial mindset to exist inside of learners in an organization that think differently about using these tools and are not constrained in the way we were historically with not only technology but ability to see the other side of an issue based on availability of data and deep algorithmic processing with AI to pivot. And that's where prompt engineering comes in because you can ask for an edit or a rewrite, etc. But if you really understand how to pivot a prompt, you can really get a multi-perspective view on a decision that you're making in an organization, code
Mm.
that you're building with something like Claude Code, etc. There's a range of different capabilities that I think put skills at the center of this transition. And it's one of the things that we're seeing organizations and institutions come to Coursera because they are starting to recognize that the skill gap is the harder pivot. The AI technologies we see with every different LLM model that comes out is increasing and improving. No organization has to worry if AI is going to be better next year than it is today. That's going to happen. The issue is, are your teams, is the talent going to evolve? And are you going to be disrupted by competitors because you just don't have the human capacity to take advantage of these tools in a new way? Or are you just automating and having users get benefits from these AI tools, but the organizational bottom line doesn't change? That's the real shift organizations and institutions are trying to recognize.
Yeah. Yeah, you underscored a few big trends I know we see here in academia, like organizational culture, leadership, change, decision making, all of these
Yes.
topics that I get to teach students about. I mean, like, they're way more important now because you have so much, to your point, so much more data coming as an input. But what do we do with it? And like, what does
Yeah.
that output look like? It's like a very interesting question because that's the human element is deciding what to do with this information. Like AI can do some things, but it requires human activation. And that means deciding what to do with the information. It means how to lead effective change. Because if your organization isn't going through some sort of transformation, like good luck. I'm not sure that's probably not a good thing. Because every company I'm talking to right now is like, we are on a transformation journey. Like we're changing. Everything's changing around us. So that means our organization needs to change with it. And then that requires like a strong culture that's based on core values and has accountability for those core values and behaviors that live inside those and leadership to live out that culture and model that culture for everyone. So I know those things sound like really nice to have fluffy things, but contextually speaking, they're way more important now in an AI world
Totally.
than they were already important, but now they're even more important.
This has always been sort of what's happening with technology. This human piece is always connected. I mean, I'll tell you when I've been working with AI for about 15 years, and actually thinking about AI and learning for all of that time. When when COVID happened and schools and universities like yours went digital and online learning was the only thing, what ended up happening when the world was finally using technology in the rightful way to sort of extend learning beyond the classroom, where most of technology's existence in schools and universities before then was in the classroom, and where technology was used the most was taking notes or getting kids on computers in a K through 12 environment, et cetera. When people sort of say, wait, I can think differently, I can learn in new paradigms, et cetera, the thing that mattered most, and most universities that I was working with at the time said, how we bring humanity into our engagement with students in new ways is the difference between engagement and success with learning than just using the tools in a basic way. humanity will always become more valuable when the technology is more pervasive or used in a sort of a paradigm shifting way, like what's happening with AI. Parents who ignored their teachers' value and true heroism saw it when learning was happening in their kitchen table and recognized, wait, these teachers are amazing and we want to get our students back in classrooms. That push was really cemented by this rise in technology. The same thing is happening with AI as organizations are saying, hey, we see huge potential with AI. How do I unleash my talent in new ways? That's really where that
Mhm.
skills investment comes in and why we're excited about the work that we're doing at Coursera. We're adding more and more AI content to the platform with industry partners like OpenAI and Anthropic and Microsoft, IBM, etc. But we're also working with universities. Coursera's history obviously comes from working with university partners. We have over 210 university partners that we're working with to build content as well as working with many universities to provide Coursera to their students to prepare them with that skills-based, that humanity-based university degree, but then micro credentials that demonstrate their skills on technology tools like AI
Mhm.
to make them really differentiated to employers when they're seeking a job. And I think that's a huge shift that comes from, a deep appreciation for not only the university role that's happening, but really seeing our role at Coursera to provide access to the tools that we need to skill the workforce as we think about the changes that are taking place.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's like sourcing the content, meeting people where they're at with the content that they need. Um, I'm so curious, Anthony, from the employer side. One thing we haven't talked at length about is like,
Sure.
what are employers like asking for? Like you mentioned credentials and then micro credentials, which I think is very interesting to demonstrate like a specific skill. But is there
Yep.
something other than critical thinking skills or something we haven't discussed already that employers like, I just can't find people like with this skill set. Like this is something that's really important and we need more training, need more development on.
Yeah, I certainly see, the things I mentioned. JavaScript object notation is something that's huge, huge need and demand for cybersecurity and data
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
Building web applications, managing large data sets with like SQL skills, like those are still needed. And a lot of the technology foundations that were in demand before Gen AI still are there because these technologies are complementary and build on the foundation. The more tech estate that you have, the more global your sales, marketing, workforce is, things like cybersecurity become a huge importance. So we're seeing those tech skills become certainly in demand. And then obviously the human skills that go even beyond critical thinking. Leadership is one, collaborative thinking, understanding things like entrepreneurial mindset. These are all things that we see from organizations that we work with. And there are organizations like Bausch and Lomb that have tried to build an AI first culture that have worked closely with Coursera and the tools that we've provided to create that foundation that's not just about AI, it's understanding the ethical use of AI, understanding
Mhm.
how the human components are woven into the curriculum essentially for their employees. So
Yep.
that balance, I think we're seeing across the platform.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's a fascinating time to be in the world of training and development and
Sure.
all these rapid shifts. But as you said, I mean, just because AI has rapidly changed the workplace in the last few years, we're still looking at a lot of the same foundational technical skills. Like we're still looking for fundamentals like leadership, critical thinking, entrepreneurial thinking. And so just knowing that, yes, a lot has changed and a lot has stayed the same, and to stay relevant, continuing to develop these skills and bridge the technical and human skills. I wish we didn't see them as like two different vacuums, that it was like a both and.
Yeah, I mean, the human skills, frankly, learning AI is now a human skill. It's what it's how we use tools that we have, whether it's the physical tools like a hammer and a chisel to leveraging technology. I think the fundamental piece comes in how does it unleash creativity, our ability to think about communication in a different way. Like there's a lot of foundational things that we certainly see. We've learned this partly because we've been building out our platform with AI as well. So how do we create AI tools to enable more engagement for learners? Things like AI Coach, which becomes your sort of partner when you're taking a course at Coursera to learn differently and progress. How do we create more opportunities for things like role play, where you can dialogue with a course and get
Hmm.
assessment based on your interaction? Like there's huge elements that we're thinking
That's
about to
cool.
leverage these skills that unleash our innate human desires. How do I feel motivated and supported? How do I interact and feel comfortable with human speech and communication? These are
Hmm.
things that we're actually putting in our product because those human desires and skills are so innately part of the learning journey, not only at Coursera, but on a university campus and certainly in the world of work. So it's all part of the same continuum. I don't see it as two different things, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the role play application. I hadn't thought about that use case for AI, but yeah, what a great way to reinforce things you're learning in training through an AI feedback tool on role playing out
Absolutely.
that situation. Yeah. Applying the learning in a safe environment and getting feedback before you have to do it for real. That's
It
neat.
it absolutely some a very, very popular feature we added to our platform. It really helps learners think through their engagement, lives confidence, which is certainly connected to application in the world of work. So very, very important.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's hard to role play with a human because you're worried about being judged and fumbling and stumbling. So I could see it
Sure.
being much safer to do with a robot. Like you're gonna be a little less afraid to screw up.
Well, and you also get much more thoughtful and detailed instant feedback as well. You may do
Yeah.
with a human, and then you're both
You're like, good job.
leaving the classroom, or hey, you could do a little bit better here. But you're going to get sort of honest and direct feedback at a much more detailed level instantly, which is also super helpful.
Yeah. Ah. Well, this is fascinating research and fascinating work y'all are doing. Anthony, I appreciate you sharing the new insights and
Awesome.
the key skills that organizations are focused on. Tell our listeners more about Coursera and where to find more about your work.
So you can always reach us at Coursera.com and learn more about the work that we're doing to provide great set of tools and materials to support all institutions, businesses, government institutions, and certainly universities to prepare their employees and learners for a changing future of work. And that's something that we're excited about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, listeners, thanks so much for being with us today. We don't ask for a lot, but one thing we are asking for are more reviews. So if you have a chance to leave a review on YouTube, Apple, wherever you get your podcast content, we would love to see more reviews so we can help getting more amazing guests like Anthony back on the show. So thank you, Anthony. Appreciate your
Thank you,
time
Julie.
and thanks, listeners.